All right, welcome to episode 1 of the Lay Down podcast. I am joined today by the one, the only, Mitch's best editor, Lenny B. How we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm scared about the Niners, but I mean, what are you going to do? I'm happy that the Raiders won this week, but, that Titans loss was definitely a heartbreaker. But, life goes on.
Right.
Okay, let me get the background in. Yeah, you see that?
Faithful then, faithful now.
Yep.
I feel like that was way easier to say in 1984 than it is 2021.
Oh, for sure. I mean, most Niner fans are just like Bay Area people.
Nah, I disagree. Most Niner fans are very positive about their team.
But no, they're positive about Kyle Shanahan. They're not really positive about the team.
But you seem like a more negative, like, I'll see it when I believe it fan.
Well, they've conditioned me to think that way. It's not like
That's how Georgia fans are too. Like,
it's not like I don't want to believe in the team. It's like every time that I do, I just get screwed over.
see, I always try to be positive. I always try to believe, but like at a certain point as a Georgia sports fan, you kind of, you get. It's like having a relationship with someone and just constantly getting to such a great point, and then they cheat on you. It's like that's what it's like. And
I really want to be in this relationship with you, but you keep breaking me off every time.
yeah, that's what hope is like. But
Whatever.
anyway, so how we're gonna do this is I'm gonna let Lenny ask me the first question. We each have 4 questions we're gonna ask each other, and then we're just basically gonna have a discussion about it. And then I'll set a timer for like 7 minutes or so, something like that. And then once that goes off, we can kind of end it.
Okay.
Unless we do this after like the Super Bowl, then that'll obviously be the only topic. But yeah. So Lenny, what's your first question to me?
So my first question is something that most people haven't really talked about since the beginning of the year. What are the top 10 head coaches in the NFL?
The top
I have
10.
my list. I have my list right here just for reference. Okay.
All right,
Number
I've got to
one,
think about. Do I have to go in order?
you have to go in order. Do you want me to read mine first, just to give you
All
like
right.
a? Okay, so I have Bill Belichick at number 1. I don't think you can displace him after what he's done
I
this
agree
year,
with that.
especially
I
on
agree
defense.
with that.
Number 2, I got Sean Payton. I think he's done an awesome job this year. Without Sean Payton, I think the Saints are like one of the worst teams in the league.
See,
They're pretty close.
Andy Reid did just win a Super Bowl, and he made another, and he has the number 1 seed again. Like, it's tough. He's made a couple. I think he's made 3. He's won 1. Sean Payton's only made 1, and he's had a Hall of Fame quarterback for 15 years.
That's true. I mean,
Are we
Sean
just
Payton's
going off this year, or are we going off in
this is
general?
just in general what I think. This is what
I can vibe with. I mean, I'd probably lean in. I mean, actually, no. I mean, John Harbaugh, I think, should be in that conversation with
Here,
this.
what if we did this? I do one my number 1 pick, and then you do number 1, and then I
All
do
right, no,
number
because okay, so we both have Belichick at number 1. Who's your number 2?
Sean Payton, like I said. That's
All right, I'd go Andy Reid.
Andy Reid. Okay. You want to say why Andy Reid? You have like an explanation?
He's made it to more Super Bowls. He's the number 1 seed again. I think the ability to kind of change. They've been so explosive over the years. They're not that anymore, but they're still statistically one of the best offenses in the league. So like he's been able to adapt. He's done it with multiple different quarterbacks. Done it on multiple different teams. Playoff record isn't great, but to consistently be in the amount of big games he's been in over the last 15 years is pretty impressive to me. So I would slightly give him the edge over Peyton. I can see why someone would pick Peyton, but I'm giving it to Reid.
Well, I can't agree more. That's why I put number 3, Andy Reid. Andy Reid's just ability, just as a leader, period. Like, forget all of the offensive stuff that he does. It's amazing. Just as a leader, you can really tell that the team really goes behind him.
Right.
Like, everyone loves him. And
we've seen his like coaching tree. Like we saw Matt Nagy, he was an Andy Reid guy, and he failed. He failed completely.
Doug Peterson was another one.
Doug Peterson was an Andy Reid guy. He won a Super Bowl, but then he got fired. Like, who who else is his name? Eric Bieniemy getting a lot of head coaching, kind of hype around him. We still don't know if he's any good as a head coach because he's working with Andy Reid. So
I want to see him do it. I want to see what it's going to be like though, because I think he's deserved a shot. You know what I mean? For what he's done, I think he's deserved a shot.
right.
All right, what's your
So number 3, I have Sean Payton.
Oh wow! All
Being
right.
an Atlanta fan, I've been to games with Sean Payton. I've watched him beat my team more often than not. He's an offensive genius. He's one of the best offensive schemers of this era, I would say. He has been pretty consistent. I have a couple down years, but he's been pretty consistent from a winning perspective. And this year, they've just been decimated with all sorts of injuries, and they're still kind of playing for a playoff spot, right? So I think you've got to give him a lot of credit for that. I don't think the Saints team today, if you look at the injuries they've had, is a very talented roster, and
No, no. I think
they've
it's
still
safe to
been
say
able
it's
to win
not.
like 7 games.
Anyone who watched the game last night.
No, Miami's a better roster right now.
All right,
So
number 4, I got Sean McVay. I think that's a pretty good pick. I mean,
give me the case for
he's
Sean.
revitalized Stafford's career after everyone thought it was dead in Detroit last year. He turned Cooper Kupp, like not single-handedly, but he's turned Cooper Kupp into one of the most prolific receiving seasons ever. He's done it with Jared Goff. He's done it with all these different players. He turned Jared Goff into a joke, into Super Bowl appearance. And he's just consistently shown that he's also a locker room guy. He's super creative on offense. I mean, what else can you say about this guy? He's a stud.
No,
He's
Sean
very
McVay
young.
is a great coach. But here's what I would say. I think Sean McVay at times gets a little bit too carried away with the passing game, and I think
Yeah,
we've seen it a bit this year.
I think that's a product of just like what age we're in. You know what I mean?
That's
like
fair.
people want to pass like all the time, and nowadays,
But sometimes I feel like it hurts their team and their success
I think I see
offensively.
that. I mean, you watch the
My number 4, and I think this is very similar to Sean Payton, John Harbaugh. I think John Harbaugh, he's won a Super Bowl. He's made the playoffs a billion times. He's won division titles with worse rosters than his counterpart down up in Pittsburgh. So there's that. There's also the fact that this year, they could still make the playoffs. He's had no Lamar. They've had so many injuries defensively. They've had injuries across the offensive line. There's not a very good again. They're not a very good roster. Let's be honest.
No, they're not.
I mean, they played Green Bay to the final play. They, have hung around in a lot of these games. They have 8 wins. They have a winning record. John Harbaugh, I think, when you're comparing him to a Sean McVay, he first of all against Bill Belichick has shown on numerous occasions that he has the beating of Belichick. McVay, the one time he played Belichick, or he's played him twice, but neither time his offense really did much, specifically in the game that everyone remembers. John Harbaugh, when he got to a Super Bowl, was able to win, as Lenny well knows.
I don't even want to hear about John Harbaugh anymore. Okay?
Sean McVay was not able to win it, so that's why I give Harbaugh the slight edge.
I totally agree why you'd put Harbaugh there. He's shown a lot longer success. I mean, he's shown he could win with Joe Flacco. I mean, he's shown he can win with Lamar. He can show he can just win about with anything. I mean, he's a locker room guy. He's a great defensive coordinator.
He's what all special teams guys want to be.
He's also a great special teams coordinator. That's a pretty underrated part of his game, honestly, or just as a coach. I mean, special teams are always elite. So at number 5, I have John Harbaugh too. Not that crazy. What do you got at number 5?
I have Sean McVay at number 5.
Okay. We got.
I don't have to explain it. I think he's an offensive genius. I think he changed the outlook of Rams football. I mean, they're going to probably win their 3rd division title in 5 years. So, I mean, they kind of, and I know this is going to annoy you.
I don't know. That sounds pretty good, man.
But they kind of run the NFC West a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
3 and 5 years.
It's kind of like, so what's happened is, the Legion of Boom, since it's been gone, it's kind of like morphed into the Rams territory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
it kind of
Man,
like
they
transitioned.
kind of ended the era. They kind
Yeah,
of ended the
I'd say
era.
so. I mean, not a lot to say about
He's an
McVay.
offensive guy. I mean, I say he gets a little bit carried away with the passing game. He's still an offensive. He's still a really good offensive coach.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, Sean McVay, top 5 coach for me. They're gonna go to the playoffs again this year. So
All right.
number
Um,
6.
I got Matt Lefleur. I know this is a little high, but whenever I watch a Packers game, this is like a thing that I just see on this field. Like LeFleur
I
always
gotta look
puts
at
up
my
a
notes
great
for
game
you.
plan. You don't. I mean, he consistently gets 13 wins per season. I mean, like he wins a lot, and you could say it's because of Rodgers, but if you watch the tape, I mean, he just looks like he's putting Rodgers in situations to succeed every single time I watch the game. Like it's not just Aaron Rodgers throwing these tight window throws all the time. No, there was that one stat that said he has the number one wide open receivers when thrown to. Part of that is Aaron Rodgers always finds the wide open Reid because he's the smartest, one of the smartest quarterbacks to ever play. But some of it's also because they have to get
Nice
open in the
scheme.
first place. I mean, he's like Mitch said this already in the bottom line, but you have players like Alan Lazard and like Marquez Valdez Scantling, I think the other guy is, and they're consistently getting open. And I just think that Matt LaFleur definitely needs a lot of love for all the success he's had in Green Bay because Mike McCarthy couldn't do it. I mean, not consistently like
I mean,
this.
here's the stat. So Mike McCarthy in his years with Green Bay won 12 games or more 3 times. Matt
But
LaFleur in 3 years with Green Bay has won 12
what?
games 3 times.
That's crazy. I mean, it just goes to
And what
show.
he's kind of Matt LaFleur is my number 6 as well. What Matt LaFleur has, I think, exposed is how much Mike McCarthy kind of underachieved with Aaron Rodgers.
I think we all. Yeah. I mean, that's
I
just
mean, he's
definitely.
winning 13 games a year.
Imagine what Matt LaFleur would have been if he was the coach in like 2010. Like, just
They
imagine the
could have won a
Patriots.
couple more,
They
even
probably
with
could
New
have won a
England.
Super Bowl. Like that was when the Patriots were kind of transitioning from Brady being like the stationary guy to like the leader of the
By
team.
2010, he was already the best quarterback in football.
I know, but you know what I mean though. Like he had that like little transition period where he wasn't.
No, that's when that they were actually. It's interesting with the Patriots because they at that point were actually kind of transitioning because that was around the time they had a bunch of bad defenses. Whereas they
Brady
were
was
out
coming
of the
in
old, like
without
they were
great.
out of they were out of the early odds era. They were kind of transitioning. They were transitioning from the '07 team to the 14 team that was really good. So it was like kind of in the middle of that, and they just kind of asked Brady to carry them to a couple deep playoff runs, and he did that. So, yeah, at number 7, who do you have?
I got Frank Reich. I know it's a pretty
Interesting.
controversial pick here, but I just love Frank Reich as he plays. He has receivers like Michael Pittman Jr., T.Y. Hilton, all these like average receivers probably, and he consistently puts them in situations to succeed. I mean, you watch the Colts. He's able to. He's a good. Wait. What am I trying to say? I don't know what. He's a good personnel guy. Like you can. They never whiff on draft picks. He never. I mean, I know he's not the GM, but he's pretty close. He has a say in it. He's just
Good
really
player
talented.
developer, you can say.
Yeah, he's a good player developer. That's what I'm trying to say. Uh, all his draft picks work out. His offense is always like top 10, top 15, despite whatever talent. I mean, Philip Rivers was turned into this guy that everyone thought was washed, and he went to the Colts. He was like top 15, top 20. I mean, he was pretty good
Carson
in
Wentz.
Carson Wentz, same thing. He was the worst freaking quarterback in the NFL
He's
last
Dwayne
year.
Haskins.
And now he's like, okay. I mean, like he's fine, like whatever. But that's more than people were saying last year. And you can't just say that's because of his the talent on the offense. We've seen a lot of teams with a lot of talent on offense just not work out. I mean, you can just tell Frank Reich's doing a really good job down there. I just love the physicality he plays with. He's like, we're going to run the ball every play, or we're going to run the ball till you're able to stop us. And when we're done with that, we're going to play action off of Carson Wentz to Michael Pittman. I just love.
Yeah,
I'm a
I
Frank Reich
mean,
fan.
I really like Frank Reich as well. My number 7 though is another AFC coach, Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott for me, he has really consistently had a really good defense. Like in 17 they were a good defense. In 18 they were a good defense. In 19 they were top 3 defense without a top 3 defensive talent, by the way. In 20, they weren't a great defense, but like they were solid last year. This year they're back to being a top 10 defense, top 5 maybe.
I'm not
So
sure what
like
happened last year.
yeah, the last year was a weird year. I think it was kind of like the offense took such a huge step up that the defense just wasn't asked to do as much. So like maybe they kind of like just relaxed a bit and they didn't play their best. Because this year they've been way better. This year they've been
Oh
a
yeah.
much better defense.
Oh yeah. This is you can just tell. It's you just watch the game and they're better.
And I mean he's played Tom Brady. He's had his number kind of a bit. I mean I know he torched them the last game, but when he was a Patriot he would do pretty well against him. They have made so the Buffalo Bills had not made the playoffs in years. I'm actually going to look this up right now.
It was I think it was like since their Super Bowl run, like when they went for 4
The
Super
Bills had not made the playoffs since 1999.
Oh,
What Sean McDermott's
terrible.
about to do is for a franchise that had not made the playoffs in once in 16 years from 2000 to 2016. He's going to take a team to the playoffs, a Buffalo Bills team, to the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 years. They made it in 17.
That's incredible.
They made
like,
it in 8
that,
and 19.
stat,
They made it to the conference championship in 20, and this year they're gonna make the playoffs.
I mean, they went to the AFC Championship game last year. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, he's consistently winning. His defenses are consistently performing. Do I think he's at an elite level? No, because I do think he still needs the Super Bowl, but he's certainly in the second tier of head coaches.
If you think Sean McDermott beat the Chiefs for whatever reason last year, made the Super Bowl, do you think we're talking about him as an elite head coach?
I still think he needs the win. I think we talk about him like we do Sean McVay, but
there's no chance he was beating the Bucs that year. There's no chance. But if he did,
not the way they play it. No.
All right, so
who's your number 8?
Sean McDermott. I have a lot of the same sentiments as you. I mean, great defense consistently. He's winning. One thing you didn't really mention was the development of Josh Allen. The way they handled Josh Allen was almost
that
perfect.
was a seamless.
You couldn't ask for a better situation for a quarterback. Yep. They added weapons, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. I know the offensive line hasn't been great this year, but they really did attack the offensive line position. I mean, he has a great defense. He doesn't have to stress about putting up like 50 points a game. I mean, like he didn't when he was getting better. Now he kind of does because his offense runs around him. But you can really see the development with Josh Allen had a lot to do with the coaching staff. And also another thing, he puts a lot of good coaches in his building. I mean, the quarterback coach for the Bills clearly knows what he's doing. Offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, love that guy. Sean McDermott's a really good coach. I mean, I have him at number 8 too. So who you got?
Yeah, I think that's fair. At number 8, I have another AFC East guy, Brian Flores.
Oh, all right.
If we were doing this 8 weeks ago, I don't know if I'd have him at this spot.
I don't think so either.
But hey, let's start off with 2019. Brian Flores comes in, New England Patriots. He was with them as the DC. Did a great job in 2018, I thought. 2019, everybody, I don't know if you remember this or not. Everyone was talking about Miami's like this potential 0-16 team.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I thought they were terrible.
I didn't think they'd actually go 0-16, but like I thought they'd win like 2 games.
I remember when they lost to the Ravens and they like got destroyed. It was like the worst thing ever.
They won like 6 games that year. They beat New England. They were competitive
that year.
It was such a bad roster, but like they were competitive, right?
Yeah,
they were competitive, and so like you got to give Flores a ton of credit for that, specifically defensively. In 2020, again, Miami was seen not as an 0-16 team, but as a middling to below average team, and Miami ended up going 10-6. They were literally a game out of the playoffs, and his defense was top 5 in football.
Oh, so, dude, the way they created turnovers, it was ridiculous that year.
Yeah.
I mean, just scheme-wise, you could tell they were doing a great job.
And this year, they're 8-7. They may or may not. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they may or may not make it.
Probably not.
So, yeah, you got to give them a ton of credit for that. I think he's a good players coach. I think players like him. So credit to Brian Flores. I think he's a good coach.
Yeah,
Number
I
8.
mean, I can't not disagree. I mean, he turned this Miami team into that was a joke. Let's be honest. It was a joke before he got there into a fairly respectable team. I mean, I know they started 1-7, but right now they're in the middle of a playoff hunt, even though, it was a little fluky, I think. But yeah, great coach. I think he's pretty good. But at number 9, we have the dreaded Kyle Shanahan, my favorite coach of all time. The second best coach since Bill Walsh to coach the Niners. But yeah, Kyle Shanahan, I really love what he does on offense, even though
Hold on. George Seifert or Kyle Shanahan?
George Seifert, man. See, George Seifert wasn't good after he left the Niners, though. We had some really stacked teams.
No, but to coach, you just said to coach the Niners. You didn't say anything about anything else.
That's true.
He won
Okay.
a Super
He's
Bowl.
number 3 then. He's number 3.
Okay. I had to get that in
He
there.
was pretty good for the Niners, but as soon as he left, he went to like the Panthers and he sucked. I remember that. Yeah, so Kyle Shanahan, love what he does on offense. I mean, I'm a Niner fan. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a Niner fan. I like what he does on offense. I keep saying that. But a lot of other things obviously aren't as good. I know he connects with the players pretty good, and I think they fight for him, but at some point with these losing seasons, you got to be like, man, what's going on with this team? Like, I know it's the injuries a lot of the time, but as a Niner fan, I got tired of the excuses, but I've been really okay with what Kyle Shanahan's done this year. And you can't take away his offensive mastermind, like how good he is as an offensive coach.
Yeah.
He turned Jimmy Garoppolo, which I think he's a fine quarterback, but he turned him into a pretty good quarterback.
Pro Bowl level.
For the majority of this year, he's been close to a Pro Bowl.
Everyone overreacts to that one game, Lenny, just because it was a night game.
Yeah.
If it was played at noon, nobody would care nearly as much.
Exactly. I mean, everyone was watching.
It's kind of like with Kirk Cousins. Everybody thinks he sucks because he sucks on prime time, but actually he's a good quarterback.
Kirk Cousins is pretty good. But yeah, Kyle Shanahan, good coach. I don't know if he's elite or anything like people say he is. I think he's a bit overrated.
And this is the Niner fan saying.
The Niner
at number 9, I have a guy that you did mention. It's Frank Reich. Frank Reich for me has done a wonderful job with the Colts. I think he lacks I don't know. I feel like his teams are always the same, and I feel like sometimes that isn't I feel like he still needs that big win. Is kind of what I'm saying. They need that big. Fair. They need to kind of break through. They've got to divisional rounds. They've made the playoffs, stuff like that. I don't think they've even won the division title yet, but
I don't think they have. I think it's been the Titans, right?
It's been the Titans
won it before.
Texans won it a couple times.
I think it was Titans twice. Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. But Frank Reich, man, he's been super consistent. Even the year with Andrew Luck, he retired. That kind of sent that whole season into kind of disaster. But they still won 7 games that year.
Kobe Brissett, man,
still won 7 games that year. So if you're down year 7 and 9, I think that shows you're a pretty good coach, good developer, good play caller, good schemer, good offenses consistently. So Frank Reich, number 9, I think that's fair.
See, this is going to be a controversial pick just because we haven't mentioned him yet. Mike Tomlin at number 10. See, Mike Tomlin, most people think he's a top 5 coach in the league, and he's just not that. He's played with these really awesome rosters so often, and consistently in the playoffs, he just does not show up. He gets out-coached, he gets out-schemed, he does some stupid thing. He's not the elite coach everyone thinks he is because he won a Super Bowl 10 years ago. I mean, with Bill Cowher's roster. So I think Mike Tomlin does a really good job of just keeping a little stability to the coach position. You look at Mike Tomlin and you're going to play for that guy. He's a great motivator. He's a great players coach. But one thing, he doesn't keep his locker room in check. There's always drama with the Steelers. Why is it why is it always the Steelers? It's got to be the coach at some point, right? You got to point at the coach at some point. You got to regulate your players. I think he does a fine job at play calling, but certainly not for an elite coach. He's not a great play caller. But the main reason I have to put him 10 is just the consistency. He just finds ways to win football games, and you can't ask that as a lot of coaches. There's a lot of coaches who just can't win for whatever reason. Kyle Shanahan's a good example of that. He gets injured a lot, but he can't find ways to win. And obviously, he's a better schemer and play caller,
Tomlin
but
finds ways to win.
Mike Tomlin finds the way to win, and he doesn't. And that's just a very important thing to have as a coach. He's proven that he can win a Super Bowl, so I put him at number 10.
Here's my problem with that. Outside of this year, we could say the same thing about Pete Carroll. And I don't think Pete Carroll's a top 10.
I guess so. He doesn't have a lot of the drama, though. I mean, I don't hate Pete Carroll, but yeah.
Well, you don't like Pete Carroll because you're a Niner fan. But
yeah, he's like this all the time. He's chewing his gum.
And he has beaten your team a lot, to be fair.
I hate Russell Wilson more than I hate Pete Carroll.
Why do you hate Russell Wilson?
Because he just outplays us all the time. Like, I watch the game, and he just, like, balls out every time he plays us. Like, even this year, he's played terrible, but he just balled out against the Niners for no reason. I was like, what the hell, man?
And that may cost you a playoff spot.
We're trying to make a playoff push, man.
No, but at number 10, I have Kyle Shanahan at number 10. Being an Atlanta fan, that season, 2016, man, so many open receivers. I mean, Matt Ryan, I love Matt Ryan, and he's had a lot of good seasons, but I've never seen a season where he just
balled out.
Like he lit up literally every defense, including a Bill Belichick defense for most of the game. You got to give Kyle Shanahan a credit for that, because Matt Ryan has never played like that. He's played well, but he's not played to that exact level. Kyle Shanahan as a schemer is the best maybe ever, honestly, outside of Bill Walsh.
You think so?
I mean, outside of Bill Walsh, I think he surpassed his father. I do. I think in terms of offensive football, he surpassed his father.
That's a hot take. I think that's a pretty
maybe that is a hot take. Maybe that's recency bias.
He just hasn't really proved it, He hasn't won it yet.
That's the reason. I mean, he hasn't gotten through. They've had one winning season in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even when he got to that,
and in those Super Bowls, he's called plays in 2 Super Bowls. Both times his play calls late in games have come under scrutiny.
Yeah.
They've blown leads in both games, 28-3, 20-10.
Oh,
you can say the refs were maybe against him in a couple of those plays in both games as much, but like you've still got to close that out. Specifically in the Niners Super Bowl, like in the Falcons one, yeah, you should have done better. But at the end of the day, Quinn was the actual head coach. In the Niners game, you're the head coach. You're in charge of everything. You've got the better roster. You should win that game. And that's what knocked Shanahan down a bit for me. But offensive football, he did get to a Super Bowl. He's won a couple playoff games, won a division title. So, like, you got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, Shanahan, pretty good coach. I mean, you can't see.
I don't think he's elite like Mitch does, but I think he's good.
I think he's good. Yeah. All right. So, what's your question? I think that was pretty cool. I think it was a pretty good.
That went for a long time.
It did. Yeah. Let's do a fast one this time.
All right. Here's my question. Derek Carr statistically has had a down year compared to last season.
Oh, what the?
But his season this year has been more impressive due to lack of
everything,
support, drama, and winning more at a higher rate. Would you say that's true or false?
What? It's true that he's been more impressive this year.
Yeah,
I mean, slam the table. Hell yeah. I didn't. So he loses Darren Waller for this stretch here. He's won 2 games in a row, or not 2 games in a row, but since the Cowboys game, he hasn't had Darren Waller, and he's shown consistently, even if he's not putting up a lot of points, that he just plays well, despite only having Hunter Renfrow. He has a bad O-line. He has a bad running back. Sorry, Raiders fans. I know you love Josh Jacobs, but he's not a good running back, okay? He doesn't have Darren Waller. Foster Moreau's a joke. Hunter Renfrow is the only okay. He's like, there's 2 good players on the offense besides Carr. There's Colton Miller, the left tackle, and then there's Hunter Renfrow.
But what about Josh Jacobs?
Josh Jacobs can't catch. He can't run. He can't do anything.
He fumbles the ball.
Derek Carr has proven to me not only as a leader of the team, because he, under all this stuff, has been able to keep this roster together. I don't hear anything about like any teammates complaining or how the things have gone so bad for them. All I see in the press conferences is them like, we're going to go next week. We're going to play next week. And a lot of that has to do with Derek Carr and his leadership. But as a quarterback, you can see he's I guess the only thing I'd say about Carr that's probably not been as good is his late game decision making. Sometimes he just makes some boneheaded throws, and I'm like, what do you I want everyone to think you're good, but you can't just throw it up there. You don't have Darren Waller or Nelson Aguilar or Henry Ruggs anymore. You have Hunter Renfrow and Zay Jones. I mean, then old ass
But I
Deshaun
think
Jackson.
because the team isn't very good, he has to kind of play that hero ball at times.
It's true, but like as a Raider fan, I mean, I know all the Niners, like, I mean, not the Niners, all the Raiders, like, fans are like, oh, Carr needs to play better. And even though the entire team it's like the Titanic, everything's just going down, but you need to play the violin better. You know how the guys at the end, or they're coming with the ship.
Yeah.
It's like what else does he need to do? But I do think that is one of the things that like just bugs me this year, because last year he was clutch, man. Like he's clutch this year, obviously, but I think that's taken a little bit of a dip. I don't know why. It's probably because he has to play more hero ball, but yeah, I mean, just when you watch the game, he looks better. He looks more calm in the pocket. Yeah, Derek Carr's a stud. I think he's played better.
So what would you say this year makes him better than last year?
His confidence. I think he's more willing to just throw downfield and really trust his receivers, even if his receivers aren't that good. He has a lot of chemistry with those guys. You can just watch the game. You can tell that they've practiced that route a couple times, or like a bunch of times. You know what I mean? And the physical traits have always been there. The mental traits have always been
He can
there.
make all the throws, always has been.
Exactly. It's just been a thing about applying that to the game. And he hasn't done that until this year in like 2016. 2019 or 2020, he was pretty good. I really liked him in 2020, but he wasn't making a lot of the throws he's making this year. And he's just been really able to.
Best year since 16?
Best year since 16. You know, he was an MVP candidate this year for a little bit. And even though the entire
like the first 5 weeks,
the entire ship's sinking, he's still playing the violin, man. And I love it. So, yeah, Derek Carr definitely having a better
would
year.
you say everything that happened with Gruden has made it even more impressive just because like the emails,
I do,
because
like John Gruden is a pretty good offensive coach. I think he's pretty good.
Right.
He's good at scheming. He's good at getting receivers open. Nelson Aguilar this year has taken a major dip from last year. I think
it's not because Mac Jones or the Patriots are a bad team or a bad player either.
I don't think Nelson Aguilar isn't bad. It's just he was schemed open a lot. Like he would just get consistently one-on-one matchups. That was what Gruden was really good at. The number one thing,
scheming guys open.
He was really good at just manufacturing one-on-one matchups to his playmakers. I saw Darren Waller get one-on-one matchups a bunch. I saw Henry Ruggs get open down the stretch with like a post or a streak, whatever. He was just really good at letting his playmakers play. And we haven't really seen that. I've seen Hunter Renfrow get like triple teamed one time. I was in the red zone. It would look like Calvin Johnson, dude. There was like 3 guys on him, and he was making like an end zone fade like this. It looked like Calvin Johnson in the red zone, man. Yeah, Derek Carr is a stud. That's what I think.
All right. Your turn, I guess.
So I wanted to ask you from 1 to 5. I think there's 5 teams, in my opinion, who are going to win or have a chance to win the Super Bowl, like a pretty good chance. Like not just, maybe like New York Giants 2011 or whatever, like a really good chance. And I guess I have 2 other teams to name, but I got the Bucks at number 1, right? Okay. I got the Patriots at number 2. I know. Big upset. I know. I got the Patriots number 2. I got the Cowboys number 3.
Wow.
I got the Chiefs number 4, and I got the Packers number 5.
I got some disagreements.
I don't care. It's my list, man. It's my question.
All right. So what's your question?
That was what's your Super Bowl picture look like? Like, what does it look like right now?
What is the bubble? Okay. So I think there's more than 5 teams that can get there. I do. I think if I'm looking at it in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs are clearly the best team right now. I don't know why you love New England. It's Kansas City to everybody. Like they're still the champ. They've been the champ the last 2 years. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And they still have the second best coach in the conference. They still have arguably the best quarterback in the conference, even in a down year. In a down year, he's thrown for over 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns.
It is
So,
crazy that he's had a down year and he's like still
down year, yeah.
crazy stats.
Everybody overreacted to Mahomes.
Well, everyone
Um,
loves Mahomes. Everyone wants him to be good, and when he's not good, everyone freaks out about it.
they still have Travis Kelce, who's still good. Tyreek Hill's still good. They still have a good offensive
It's kind of an
line.
understatement there.
Their defense is, I mean, it's probably their best defense, I think. Maybe the
The
19
last couple of
defense.
years with the Andy Reid era,
Yeah. In the
I'd
Mahomes
say
era. I think it
if you
might be Mahomes'
count
best defense.
if you count the playoff run in 2019, like specifically that defense, I would probably say that one. But
I mean,
overall, during the season, oh yeah, for sure, this is
that
the best.
defense was probably more talented. But I feel like this defense plays with more of like a swagger.
More,
I
yeah.
just kind of when I look at them, they seem more confident and like I don't know. I just feel like they play better this year than they have in any other year with Mahomes, specifically last year, and especially the 2018 year.
Are
Um, I think the Titans are still a good team.
they your number two in the AFC or the
In
general?
terms of getting to the Super Bowl, I think I'd probably. Here's the thing with the Titans: they are gonna have home field over the Colts, barring an absolute disaster.
That would no. There's no chance. The Titans are going to get that.
So yeah, I maybe just because of that, I slightly lean them over the Colts. I think they're very similar teams. I think Wentz and Tannehill are both question marks, but like if they're on their game, they're pretty decent players. They can both run the ball with the best backs in the league. They got good run blocking lines. Colts probably a bit better in pass blocking than Tennessee. I think Tennessee has more weapons in the passing game. Defensively, I think they're very similar. I'd probably say
Yeah,
the Colts are better on the back end, but Tennessee's maybe a bit better on the front seven. But like coaching wise,
they're
the
similar
Colts
enough.
are probably better. So I think the Colts are maybe a slightly better team, but I think the Titans, just because they're at home, you got to kind of even it out, maybe even give them a slight edge. I don't see anybody. The only other team I'm going to give a shot is the Bills because I think the Bills,
Yeah,
Josh Allen,
yeah.
he can be as good as any quarterback in the conference. They've got a top 5 defense. They've still got Stephon Diggs, who's having a good year. They've still got good coach, as we said, Brian Dable, Sean McDermott. They got good coaches. They did look a bit more committed to the run, I thought, against New England. So I think they've still got the pieces. I feel like maybe we overreacted to the Bills because they lost a couple good
I think they
teams in
just had a
close
slump.
games.
I think they just, for whatever reason, just
And I
couldn't
think
roll those
if
games.
you would have said this would have been the Bills last year, I wouldn't have been very surprised. But because they had this great year last year, everybody expected them to do the exact same thing. And because they haven't been maybe as lucky as they were last year in a couple of these close games, their record looks worse. But statistically, they're as good, if not better, than last year.
Do you think they're a better team this year
I think
than
they're
last
very different. I think their offense is not as good, but I think their defense is significantly better.
I think they rely a little too much on Josh Allen. So I'd
But
have
they
to say,
relied on him a lot last year too.
oh, I
And
know,
they
but
didn't have the
this year
defense.
it's like if Josh Allen doesn't play good, it's over. Game's done. Like unless they're playing the even the Jags. I mean, they lost against the Jags because Josh Allen didn't show up. The other Josh
So
did.
I would give, but I still give them a shot to win the
No,
AFC.
I mean just because they have Josh Allen on that field.
I just think the Patriots are. I don't like their receivers, man. I
That's
think you
fair.
got to
I
have at
mean,
least one game breaker receiver to win one, and or you need to have a cast of solid guys. I don't think they've got either. I
all
think
right, who you got in the NFC then? Who's
in the
your NFC
NFC,
guys? Yeah, who's your NFC guys? Not talking
to
about winning.
me, it's not as much who's the best team as much as what are
Matchups.
the matchups,
Yep.
right? So I think take the Packers, who are the Vegas odds favorite to win the NFC right now, slightly ahead of Tampa.
Boring.
The Packers, I think, would beat the Rams. I think they beat Dallas. The Dallas matchup's weird because I don't think they match up well with Dallas,
I
but
don't think they match up well.
it's just the Rodgers factor, right? It's
Yeah,
just the
the
Rodgers factor.
MVP.
And then Tampa Bay, I think, would beat them head to head. I think they can shut down the run, they can double Adams, they can stick their other guys on their receivers, and they can make them beat you. And they can't do it. And they've shown they can get pressure with Ford twice against better lines. Tampa Bay, I entered the season with the opinion that Tampa Bay would walk the league. Genuinely,
Like
I
the
thought they were
Chiefs
clear.
last year.
I didn't see a flaw. Clearly, that's not the case. They've lost games on the field. They've lost players, so they're vulnerable. But I still give them a shot for sure because they just have Tom Brady, who's amazing. Dallas, I give a shot. I think they've got a very well balanced team. I think the Rams are kind of in the same bout. They just have too much talent. So that's kind of all I see. I think there's 4 teams in each conference that can get to the Super Bowl.
What do you think about the Rams' chances? Do you think they have a chance if everything
I
just
do.
goes their way and they
I
have
think if I were to say in the
chance
NFC who's the one team that could beat the Bucks, it would be the Rams.
I mean, we already saw that they could beat them in the regular season.
They've shown their offensive line, I think, has shown an ability to negate their pass rush a bit. I think they've shown an ability to kind of run the ball fairly effectively against Tampa,
which is hard.
Regarding how other teams like the Packers have done in that regard. They can certainly throw it. They threw it last year with Goff. They threw a party on them this year.
Last year they almost won, if you remember.
They won last
year. But they did win.
They did.
So they're 2-0 in the last 2 years.
And their defense has had some success against Brady. Like Brady played well against the Rams, but it wasn't one of his best games, I thought. And they kind of shut down the run. So yeah, I do think the Rams have a good shot. It's just kind of like the matchups.
It's not realistic.
I think if the Rams were to play the Packers, I wouldn't pick them. But if they play Tampa Bay, I may even pick them. So
the way I'd say it, if the Rams were to win or go to the Super Bowl, is if they division round they win, or in the wild card they win, and then they get matched up with Tampa, and then Green Bay lose to Dallas, and then they'd have to play Dallas, and then they just.
I think Dallas is.
I think they have a better chance to.
I think Dallas is a tough matchup, but they have a better chance of beating them than they do Green Bay.
I just think if it was that would be the matchup that they'd want, or just a wild card team to like the Niners or something to show up. I mean, I guess not the Niners, but you know what I mean. Like the Cardinals were to climb or whatever. That's what they'd want probably.
All right, Lenny, I'm gonna let you just kind of talk about this. The San Francisco 49ers are a bigger threat in the NFC than the Arizona Cardinals. What is your opinion on that?
It depends if Jimmy Garoppolo is playing. I mean, I don't know. Trey Lance. I need to see Trey Lance play a game. I watched him in the preseason. He looked terrible. I watched him against the Cardinals. He looked terrible. I mean, I guess he didn't look terrible in the Cardinals game, but he looked pretty bad. If you mean by a threat, like they're gonna
if they play a wild card. Okay, so let's say the Cardinals are playing on wild card weekend and the Niners are playing on wild card weekend. Who has the better chance of winning the game?
I think there's 2 teams in the NFL in the wild card that nobody wants to play. I think that's the Niners and that's the Colts. I don't think anybody wants to play the Niners because they're going to give them a tough game. What really concerns me about the Niners in the NFC specifically is just the lack of cornerback talent against all these receiving options that the NFC has. The Bucs, they have Antonio Brown. They're going to get Mike Evans, and they're going to have Leonard Fournette.
I've seen Devontae Adams go up against
Devontae Adams against the Niners. That would be really tough for them. And the Cowboys have Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and
the Rams guys.
Michael Gallup. I mean, it's just tough.
The Rams guys.
Way. The Rams have OBJ. They have Cooper Kupp. It's just tough from that standpoint to really think the Niners are going to upset anybody majorly. But the way that the Niners can beat these teams, which there's a pretty good chance, I wouldn't count the Niners out in any way, is if they just get a run game going. It's just, as long as they just get a good run game going, keep these offenses off the field to not make these plays, because that's how you negate a really good offense. They got a shot against anybody. If they can get a good run game going, this Niners team got a shot against anybody. I don't care what anybody says.
What is your opinion on Arizona then?
I think Arizona is a really old team, and what happened this year is these old players as the season goes on, these old players' bodies start to break down. They start not playing as good. They start
Hopkins. Why?
Hopkins. they start getting injured. JJ Watt. It's just what happens, and I think it's just why they were so dominant in that stretch because they were fresh, they were young, they had this new thing they were doing on offense. It just looked like everything was so smooth, but as past week 9, players started breaking down. There's injuries, a lot more injuries than you want, and I think that's just what happened with the Cardinals, and I think they're not going to be ready for the playoffs. I think the only real way they were able to make a Super Bowl or do something like that is if they acquired the first seed and had that first round bye just to get healthy. But they don't have that now. They're really clawing to get by right now, and that's just not a good mindset to have in the playoffs. The Niners, similar kind of. We have a pretty good win streak right now. If we go out and beat the Titans and not the Texans and then the Rams, that's dangerous. If we beat the Rams on week 17, because I think it's on prime time, that's just not a team you want to play. That's 10 wins. That's a team that's had a great win streak up until then. I mean, that's just – I think they can upset somebody. It's just a matter of that they can run the ball. I really just think if they run the ball well against anybody in the NFC, they have a chance. And that's all you can ask for as a wild card team. So, yeah, I think they're a threat as long as that happens. But
would you say, though, that, like, Kyle Shanahan he's been here in recent years as a coordinator and a head coach into the playoffs. Arizona hasn't been here since 2015, which in football years was a hell of a long time ago.
Yeah, that's
so. Like, would you say that's part of it?
I don't necessarily think so. The Niners in 2019, for example, Kyle Shanahan only went to the playoffs in the Super Bowl if the Falcons 3 years ago. None of the real players been to the Super Bowl. It was a bunch of young players. Buckner never went to the Super Bowl. Warner, Sherman was really one of the only players and Joe Staley. There was only a couple.
Jimmy had been there a couple times with New England.
He doesn't count. He's the backup quarterback. He doesn't.
Still, count. The routine. What the playoffs are like. Still, just learning behind them.
You know how to polish the ball, I guess. But I don't necessarily think that. Because if your team's good enough, you're gonna win a lot of football games. You're gonna win the playoff games. It's just for the Cardinals. I just think it's just age in general. They're just not a young roster. It's just these old players weren't gonna play consistently this good throughout the entire year. That's just what's not gonna happen. Kyler is just running around out there. The offensive line kind of broke down a little bit. You know what I mean? It played above its water, above its head. I think the offensive line's played above his head for most of the year too, so that's part of it. Rodney Hudson really helped stabilize. See, another old player.
All right, Lenny, my timer just went off. So
okay, all right, I'm done.
All right, your turn.
All right, this is like a 2-parter.
All right,
and I'll just count it as my second, my fourth one. Okay, so who's on the upswing next year? Just random playoff team that could win the Super Bowl next year if everything goes their way, whatever. And who's on the downswing? So
wait. Okay, so who do I think could regress, and who do I think could be better
in the NFC and the AFC? You have to tell me 2 teams
in each
conference. I have my
damn Lenny. That's tough. You're putting me on the spot here.
First for the upswing for the AFC. I can tell you.
First of all, I gotta look at the standings here.
Okay, all right. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a team that's like. I just don't want a team that's already like favored or like really close to winning a playoff.
All right, so I'll go with I won't count the 5 Super Bowl favorites like in Vegas.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So let me look at the Super Bowl odds real quick.
The Rams, one of them.
So I will not include in this the Chiefs, the Packers, the Bucks, the Bills, or the Rams.
Okay. Yeah, I mean those seem like the obvious picks that are already good.
All right. So in the AFC, I think that the New England Patriots could be, if they're literally, in my opinion, a receiver and maybe another run defender or 2 away from being and some more Mac Jones experience, which I think them losing in the playoffs this year will help them in the long term. Bill Belichick, he's Obi-Wan, he's Dumbledore, he's all those guys. So he's won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach alone. He's won more as a coordinator. He is still the GOAT. So I think more experienced quarterback. We saw they only got better as Brady got older, right? So, I mean, they I mean, Mac Jones is he's still a rookie. I know everybody loves about like his
People
mind.
criticize him like he's been playing in the league for 10 years and
He's a
he's just
very
like the
smart
guy.
player, but like he's been bad in cold weather this year. It's like he's gonna get more used to the NFL, right? And you got to remember what like Mac Jones is an Alabama quarterback. Mac Jones is used to Nick
Yeah, I
Saban.
mean,
He's
for
used to
4
that
years he's been in
system.
Alabama. I mean,
He
like,
he is he had all those weapons. It's tough, man, because with Alabama you have the first or second best roster every year, and you have a significant talent advantage of anybody you play except this team right
I
here.
think they had.
Um, so yeah, you have that. When you come to New England, like the NFL talent gap is way smaller than the college talent gap, and
Oh,
so
for
that's why
sure.
we always see rookie improvement. I'm gonna take you back, Lenny. Who's won the most MVPs in NFL history?
Peyton Manning.
You want to know what he did in his first year? He set the rookie record for interceptions. He was
Yeah,
terrible.
I do know
In
that. I think most,
1999, he was a Pro Bowler, right?
not too bad.
I'm not saying Mac Jones can be Peyton Manning, but like he's gonna get better. They
Justin
are
Herbert too. Yeah, Justin Herbert. I mean, like, even though he was really good last year,
Joe
his
Burrow.
record
Joe
didn't
Burrow
show
was
it.
fine last
Joe
year. Joe
Burrow.
Burrow's elite this year, right?
See, two. You can see that with
Josh
Tua,
Allen.
too.
Josh Allen got better every year. Until I mean, last year he's kind of he's in his prime now. But year one to year two to year three, he improved.
Aaron
So
Rodgers, for that was one thing. He wasn't good when he was a rookie, but like as soon as they
I mean,
started,
Aaron Rodgers was actually pretty good as a rookie.
I don't think he was that good. I remember that one thing that Joe Buck said. He's like, man, this team is not going to win a lot of football games without Brett Favre. If nothing doesn't significantly improve. I remember that.
Yeah, but that wasn't his first like actual year of starting. That was just him coming in as a backup.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, not as a
Okay,
starter,
but like the point is, Mac Jones is going to get better.
yeah, I get your point.
They're fine at running back. They're fine
Jamie
along
Harris
the
is pretty
offensive
good.
line. They're fine along at tight end. They're an explosive receiver away. They need not
They really
Randy
should have
Moss
got
obviously, but
OBJ
they
off
just
waivers.
need an explosive receiver that can go downfield.
They really should have gotten OBJ off.
For all you Alabama fans, they need a Jalen Waddle. Mac Jones needs a Jalen Waddle, right?
He needs the
Um,
Stephon Diggs for the Bills. I think it's
yeah,
like that. I think that's a pretty
he
good
needs a
comparison.
Stephon Diggs. He needs that. And defensively, I still feel like they could be better against the run for the amount, especially for the amount of size they have. I feel like that's kind of an area where they've struggled a bit in recent years.
I think if they
But
have that explosive receiver, that's not going to be like that big of
you
an
can
issue.
find like Belichick's done this in the past. You can find cheap guys that are primarily just run stuffers, and they can rotate them in. They're deep. Their secondary's elite, right? And Belichick's excellent when it comes to drafting secondary players. So like I could see the Patriots next year actually being a Super Bowl team. The other team I think
Already a Super Bowl team.
the other team I think would be the Bengals. They've got the
Yep.
quarterback, they've got the running back, they've got the receiving core, they've got their offensive line. A couple improvements, but like I think they've played a little better
How much
this year
cap
than
space
last
do they
year.
have? I'm gonna look it up. Cap space for the Bengals.
I'm not really projecting cap space into this. I'm just kind
Oh,
of
okay.
looking at like
I'm kind of just interested too. I just want to
okay.
see. Oh man, the Chargers are third in cap space next year.
Chargers could be another team.
That was my pick. For me for the AFC, I had the
I
Chargers.
just feel like every year we hype up the Chargers as like the next year. I just kind of want to go.
I think this one's actually legit this time.
It
Though.
could be, it could, and I'm not saying it isn't. I like the
I
Chargers.
didn't think there were Super Bowl contenders going
I
into this.
just feel like I kind of wanted to go off the board with this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Chargers. Obviously, you have the quarterback, you have the coach. Mitch made a whole video about how their future is. I think there's two things you need for a successful culture. You need a coach, a head coach, a good coach, and you need a good quarterback. And they have two great at both positions.
The other thing with the Bengals is they've got a lot of young defensive players.
They had like five. They had five. They had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase,
Higgins.
They were all like
Mixon.
1,000-yard players or whatever with that under 25, which is
They've got a 4,000-yard passer. They've got a 1,000-yard back, and they've got 2,000-yard receivers.
Yeah, Bengals. I mean, as long as their front office doesn't screw them like they usually do. but we're not really bad.
As for the teams that I could see regress this next year, I could see the Titans regress. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're an older team. I feel like
Tannehill.
they've kind of had a run, and I feel like this year with the Julio move, they're kind of going all in. Derrick Henry's only another year older. I love Derrick Henry, but he's coming off an injury. We don't exactly know, right?
We don't know.
Tannehill's only another year older. I love AJ Brown, but Julio's only another year older. The offensive line's starting to get up there. Some of their, I mean, Lawan, Ben Jones, Saffold, those stalwarts, they're getting a little older now. Defensively, they're fine, but I don't know if they'll be elite necessarily next year and be able to carry the team. I feel like this era of Titans football is starting to come to an end.
What, like the
The
Tannehill
Ryan
area?
Tannehill, Derrick Henry, big offensive line era, I feel like they're starting to come to an end.
All right. I mean, yeah, the Titans, they just have a lot of these old players, and the coaching staff is kind of getting figured out at this point. I mean, it just kind of seems like we said this last year that they might fall off. Before they got Julio Jones, I remember everyone was saying they were going to suck next year. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Most people thought they were going to be really bad next year, or just like average, whatever.
All right, so do I have to say a playoff team right now?
Playoff. I mean, you could say a playoff team. I think
because there's another team with a winning record in the AFC that I think is going to fall off. Can I say them?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I think the Las Vegas Raiders are the.
Oh no! Oh.
I'm sorry, Lenny, but I think next year has to be the rebuild year.
I think.
First of all, I have no clue if you're actually going to even have Derek Carr on the roster.
That's a big if. It's a big if.
Second of all, I feel like you're going to have a new head coach. Usually with new head coaches, it takes a year or two to kind of get all their guys in, get their system implemented, all of that stuff. You're kind of working with the old guys roster. So there's that. I also feel like you've been very lucky in a lot of games this year, and typically that doesn't translate well. So
yeah, I mean, the Raiders, man, I don't even know how we have 8 wins. It's insane to me. We don't have to talk about it that long. The Raiders are just not that talented. I mean, when healthy, they're pretty healthy right now. They're not like the most injured team in the league. They're not like a Titans or a Niners right now. They just don't have a lot to offer for a future playoff team or anything. They don't have a coach. They don't even know if we have a quarterback next year. We don't know if Waller's coming back next year. He's a free agent next year, I think. It's just, yeah, a lot of ifs. We don't know. So yeah,
it's December 28th today. So, like, there's still a ton that can happen. In 8 months, I may be predicting the Raiders to go to the playoffs. We have no clue.
We don't know. I mean,
but this is just, like, way too early, just kind of impressions of the teams entering next season.
That's I just wanted to do like a
and then, okay, so for the NFCs, these are your third and fourth questions, AFC and NFC. So, for the NFC, obviously not including Green Bay or the Rams or the Bucs here, who could I see getting better? I think there's one team that I think is good this year that could get better, and that's the Cardinals. They have a young quarterback who's getting better, who's shown improvement every year. I think maybe that peaks and he actually becomes – because Kyler Murray, before his injury, was being talked about as MVP.
I think that was a little overblown.
Maybe it was a bit overblown, but he was playing at a very high level.
He was playing.
Maybe he doesn't get hurt, and maybe he can just sustain that. Right? Maybe they add somebody. I do think they've got a decent amount of cap space. I don't know if
let me look it up. They've
got some young pieces offensively.
They're the 21st most. They have not a lot. They have 21,000, but that's not that much compared to other teams.
Give me 1 second.
All right. Well, since Ultra's gone right now, I'll just talk about why the Niners are going to the Super Bowl and every other team is terrible compared. No, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I mean, what you were saying earlier with the Cardinals, it's just they're like a couple pieces away. They need a really good corner or just a really consistent corner. They need just to be healthy, I guess. They need maybe a couple pieces at O-line still, maybe some depth of receiver. I really like Rondale Moore. Maybe he takes that next step. I really like what the Cardinals got going on, but this year they're just not those guys right now.
So the other thing is they have a lot of young players in the secondary, like Byron Murphy. maybe they can
I
improve as
like
well.
Byron Murphy. He's pretty good.
I also feel like this is another thing. It's kind of like the Patriots. Like I feel like losing in the playoffs and getting some knowledge, it helps with experience, man.
It does.
So yeah, I can see the Cardinals maybe actually being a legit Super Bowl contender. And the other team, and this pains me to say because I hate this team with all my heart, but
Oh, who's it gonna be?
and they're not a good team right now, but the New Orleans Saints, man.
Oh, you think so?
This
They're just
team,
buried in cap space right now.
I mean, they've been married in cap space for the last 3 years. Hasn't mattered.
Fair enough.
When I look at this team, before all of the injuries, all the COVID, they were 5-2, coming off a win of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, they look
Jameis
pretty.
Winston had 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
He still does technically.
Yeah, it still does technically. Still, I think he's still their leading passer, and he's been played in 2
No
months.
way, really?
I
That's
think
hilarious.
so.
They've had like 5 different quarterbacks, so I'm not that surprised. But
They've
it's
had
so
Winston, Simeon, Taysom, and Ian Book.
Ian Book, man. I'm a Notre Dame fan.
No, but like, I genuinely think this team's going to get Russell Wilson.
You think so?
I think when
You
you're
think they
looking
trade
at
in conference
when you're
though?
looking at cities in the South, the 3 big markets in the South, you're looking at Atlanta, you're looking at Miami, and you're looking at New Orleans. Atlanta, probably still going to stick with Matt Ryan. Miami, probably still going to stick with Tua. New
Probably.
Orleans, I don't know if they're. I mean, I don't know if they're
I don't think
sold.
they have cap space though. I don't think they have enough cap.
Bro, they've manipulated the. Mickey Loomis, first of all, is an excellent GM. He
He's probably
can
the best in the
manipulate cap
league.
space. They manipulated cap space. They were signing guys at the end of the summer, and they were in like negative 73 million at the start of the
Didn't they
spring.
like franchise tag Malcolm Jenkins? I mean,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
they were literally like signing guys at the end of
They were adding
it's
to the roster.
insane. So they've got that. They've still got Alvin Kamara, who is an excellent player. Michael Thomas, who know that's their other flaw.
I guess he's
Michael
the X
Thomas,
factor.
he's kind of the X factor of this team. If Michael Thomas is coming back though, I know he's getting a little older now, but he's still a good receiver. Maybe he's not as good as everyone thought he
He's at
was, but
least top 20.
he's still a good receiver.
He's at least top 20.
He's at least top 20 when he's on the field.
Yeah, when he's on.
They've got other like I like how Marquez Callaway has played for a fair amount of games this season. So and they are the other thing about the Saints, they are great. They are great at drafting. This
They
is
are
a
great.
very good receiver class. There's a lot of speedsters, which is what they need. Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams,
Too.
these guys, they're gonna get one of them. They're gonna get one of these receivers.
I feel like the Saints are going to trade down. I just feel like every year they trade down.
Maybe, but this is a deep receiving class too. There's always a good receiving class, but this year it's primary speed, and that's what the Saints need.
So yeah, like it's just it's a class of Henry Ruggs this year.
Their offensive line, maybe you got to retool a little bit, but I mean, I expect them to keep Teron Armstead. Ryan Ramczyk is still Ryan Ramczyk, one of the best right tackles in the league. Their interior has played better than I thought it would at this
Reid
season.
has played pretty good, I heard.
Yeah, so their offensive line's fine. Their defense getting a little older, but they're transitioning, man. They've some of the young guys are kind of stepping up a bit. They get David Onyemata. They still got Cam Jordan there. Demario Davis is still there. Marshawn Lattimore's had a bounce back year. Marcus Williams is still there. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They've got a lot of talent defensively, and they're very well coached with Dennis Allen. They're still going to be a good defense, I think. Again, it's really early.
It is really early.
All this team needs, in my opinion, is a truly game-changing quarterback, and I think they're right into like the Super Bowl contending.
You think they just let Jameis go this year? I think he was on a 1-year contract.
I don't know if they'll keep him or not. I think with him, they're a playoff team, but I think with a Russell Wilson, they're like a Super Bowl team.
I don't know if I see the Packers trading in conference. That's the problem.
You mean the Seahawks?
Well, I guess the Seahawks do. I
think the big thing would be in division. I think if the Saints give them the best offer, they take it.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Saints getting any of those quarterbacks.
And again, like the other thing is Sean
They
Payton.
could even pick up Derek Carr. I mean,
Sean Payton's a
they
great
could.
coach. Sean Payton's a great coach.
I think it's more likely they pick up Derek Carr if he becomes a free agent.
Maybe Derek Carr, but maybe Derek Carr is the
He
answer
fits the
too.
scheme a
So
lot more. I mean, it just seems like a better fit. I don't know. I just thought,
I always kind of thought with the Saints that this is the year after Drew Brees. Like it always kind of felt like a down year, right? I
yeah,
kind of felt this way at the around this time last year that they would regress this year, and even with and they honestly were exceeding my expectations.
yeah.
But
They had 13 wins last year. That was probably better
no,
than.
I mean this year before all the injuries.
Oh, when they were okay.
Um, last year I thought they'd be like a Super Bowl level team. But,
Never mind.
yeah, I think next year they may be back to like 2017 to 2024. As much as it
Yeah,
pains me to say, because I'd love for the Saints to suck again, but
you like
who?
being the
All right,
top
so who could
dogs.
regress? This is an interesting question.
Uh, I have a couple different picks here for upswing in
Or
the NFL.
just float out some teams that may regress.
I think that the Packers have a really good chance of regressing next
Here's the
year.
problem, Lenny. I feel like first of all, I'm not allowed to say the Packers because they're one of the 5 odds favorites. So like I can't say they'll be
No,
good
that's a
or better.
downswing. That's different.
Oh, so am I allowed to say one of the
Yeah, you're allowed to say whoever is
All
good
right,
right
so
now. You're
then
allowed to say
I'm going to
is
say this.
bad.
I think the Packers may I still think the Packers are going to be like a good team next year. As long as they here's the
They
thing
have
though.
Jordan Love. He
Here's the
played
thing.
so
Here's the thing.
terrible. He played
Here's the
awful.
elephant in the room. If Aaron Rodgers is there. If Aaron
What about
Rodgers is
Jordan
there,
Love?
they're
What do you
still
think
going to
of
be a
Jordan
good team. But if he's not there,
Love? What if they get Derek Carr?
Devontae Adams, same.
They
He's
could
on his
do
last year
that.
of his
That
contract.
could definitely happen. I
If
would
they
love that.
both, if Rodgers and imagine this, Packers win the Super Bowl, Adams goes, Rodgers goes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they got Lefleur. He could scheme open Allen Lazard for 5 yards
Lefleur would
and
somehow scheme up like 8 wins, but
no, he'll
I mean they
scheme.
almost beat the
Yeah.
Chiefs with love. But like
They'll have like a winning record, I think. If they
I don't know if I see them as good as they've been the last 3 years.
no, not even close. Without if they had either of those out, are you kidding me? No way.
If they
Yeah.
keep them, then yeah, probably. But like if
Another
they
team I
lose one of
had,
them,
I think it's pretty obvious.
it's just kind of the uncertainty.
I think the
I
Rams are
think
pretty obvious downswing guys next year.
the Rams. No,
Yes.
I think the Rams will be better next year.
What? You know how much cap? You know,
But I mean,
Cups on a contract year right
second year
now.
in the system, second year with Stafford in the system. They don't have a ton of big free agents, right? Maybe you can say like there's no way Cooper Kupp plays as well as he did this year, next year. Like maybe he had a fluke year, and he'll go back to being a good player, but not like this record breaker, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, but like.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I feel like there's a ton of uncertainty with the Packers, more than like I just think they're going to get worse as a team. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I mean, it's simple as we don't know where Rodgers is going to be. I don't think.
And the other team, here's the thing: there's not a lot of good teams in the NFC.
I guess okay. How about this? Instead of like just not being a great team or or okay team, like a okay team that could just really nosedive into like Lions.
All right, the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, you really think they could be that? I think they could get better.
No,
right?
Here's the thing. So it's not because I think the Falcons may be a better team for all we know next year, but the Falcons' schedule this year has been fairly easy. Next year we gotta play a tough ass schedule, man.
All right.
So
I mean,
like
I think that's
record wise, I think we probably go down, which may be good. Maybe we end up with Bryce Young, and then we go into this dynasty. That'd be a
Here's
dream.
one team that you didn't mention. 2 teams you didn't mention in the NFC that I think have a good chance of being better. I think the Eagles have a good chance of
maybe
being a contender next year.
Maybe
they have a great offensive line. I mean, if Jalen Hurts takes the next step,
I'll say this though: what has made the Eagles very good, offensive line, defensive line.
Yep,
both of those units starting to get a bit older.
That's true.
So
I mean, it's true. I just threw him out there because I thought that was pretty interesting. Just the way.
I mean, maybe if Jalen Hurts takes the Kyler Murray like leap, then yeah. But
I think
I don't know if that's going to happen.
Right. And another team, just real quick, I had the Panthers. I think if they get a new good coach and they have a really dangerous like just receiving options and in general just a really dangerous team. They have a really good supporting cast on defense, and yeah, as long as they stir up that offensive line and they
I
get
mean,
a quarterback,
I just don't see it with
three things
Matt
gonna
Rule,
happen, right?
bro.
They need a coach, they need offensive line, and they need a quarterback. If
So
all
like the
three of those
three
things
most
happen,
important things.
if all three of those things happen, they're Super Bowl contenders.
I think it could be your Niners. If they just
I
get
think
some
so.
consistency at quarterback, that's all you need. You've got a top 8 roster.
All right, we're done with mine.
All
So,
right, so Lenny, I've got 2 questions here.
all right.
The Kansas City Chiefs
Boo.
are overrated.
Oh hell yeah, they're overrated. Are you kidding me? Who have they played? I'm gonna look up who have they played. They haven't played very many teams that are good. Okay. Let's see. So they've played the Raiders 2 times, which were a joke. We shouldn't even count as wins. The Broncos, which suck. They almost lost to the
Wait,
Chargers.
Lenny, did you just say did you just say the Raiders shouldn't count as
They
wins?
shouldn't count as wins. It's like if they put a high school team in there. It's not fair. Derek Carr and a high school team. But yeah, Chargers, they should have lost in overtime. If the Chargers didn't go for it
If the Chargers were smarter, they would have
if they
lost.
took like one field goal, they win that game. Brandon Staley's an idiot. I love Brandon Staley, but dude, come on. You got to take the points at some point, man. But yeah, you played the Steelers, the Cowboys without the receivers.
Steelers.
They played the Packers without their quarterback. Jordan Love was starting. They beat the Giants by 3 points. And the week before that, they got crushed by the Titans 27-3. So I got to see them beat an actually good team, like an actual good, like we're going to see against the Bengals. I was talking about this on the bottom consensus.
If they make a statement against Cincy, I think that a lot of the
If
Chiefs
they make a
questions go
statement
down.
against Cincinnati, I'll put them as favorites in the AFC to win. I mean, that's why I put
They're,
them.
well, they're favorites in the AFC.
In my opinion, if they're favorites, like if I really think that they're probably the best team to make the Super Bowl, then I'll put them as favorites.
But Lenny, come on. I know you can't keep going on with this Patriots stuff.
Dude, I said they'd make the Super Bowl in preseason. They're going to do it.
You said they'd win it against the Niners.
It was going to be a Mac Jones versus Trey Lance Super Bowl. It's going to be awesome, man. Still could happen. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's out now, so it could
technically it could happen.
It could technically still happen. But yeah, Chiefs are overrated. Their offense is only putting up like 20 points per game, 14 points per game. I'm not that much impressed with Patrick Mahomes than I was in the beginning of the season. He's just getting more lucky with turnovers, I think. I mean, this Chiefs team is good. I don't think it's an argument whether or not they're good. They're definitely contenders in the Super Bowl. It's not a question. I just wish that people would stop like crowning them already. I need to see it first. Like they need to beat a good team first. Like they beat the Chargers. Okay.
Here's what I think a lot of it is, Lenny. The last 3 years of how good the Chiefs have been makes people, when they see them win a bunch of games in a row, just automatically assume that they're going to win it.
I'm not
saying they can't, because they could. They're the favorites in the AFC, as we've established. But they're at least top 2.
Yeah,
according to this Patriots fan over here.
Yeah.
But that's what people see, and they're not as good as they were a few years ago, I don't think.
No.
They're still a good team, but
they're definitely not as good as they were a few years ago. I remember last year, it felt like they sleptwalked through the season. They wouldn't even.
And they won like 14 games.
Now it feels like they're like clawing their way to every single win, doesn't it?
No, they've had a couple dominating wins.
No, but like you watched them last year, it felt like they were just not trying.
But here's the difference. This year they win games like 21-6.
Yeah.
Last year they won games 42-20.
Like it felt like Patrick Mahomes was like drinking coffee in the middle of throwing a pass.
Because Patrick Mahomes was basically perfect throughout the regular season.
And yet
this year he hasn't been.
Yeah. I think that's fair. They don't have perfect quarterback play anymore. I mean,
they have very good quarterback play.
Pretty good quarterback play. They don't have perfect quarterback play. So, yeah, I think the Chiefs are overrated right now. I'm not making them the favorites. I don't think they could they could probably win the Super Bowl. but I'm not like gonna say that they're gonna win the Super Bowl right now. I'm just
So who would you put above them? Not including New England. Who other than
okay,
New
fine.
England?
I put the Bucks and the Cowboys. I seriously think the Cowboys are gonna make a run. I really think so.
You
I
do?
can talk about it if you want, but
Yeah, go quickly. You got 40 seconds.
all right. Cowboys, they have a lot of playmakers on defense, and they can have a really good schedule in the playoffs. If they just have the right matchups, they can win it all. If they don't play the Cowboys, I think they are not. If they don't play the Bucks, I think they really got a good chance. And when you have a really good quarterback, you have an experienced coach, you have a really good offensive coordinator, you have an experienced defensive coordinator, and you just have all that talent on offense, you're bound to have any chance to make the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs, and they've beaten a lot more quality opponents than the Chiefs right now. So that's just what I think about the Cowboys. And plus, they just won like 49-6. So, I mean.
All right, Lenny. Last question.
All right, let's hear it.
I know you're a Notre Dame fan, even though you're from California. Brian Kelly.
Oh,
just,
God.
Just give me your thoughts on him moving to LSU.
Man, what a weasel. What a weasel that guy is. In the middle of a playoff run where we had a chance, even if it was like barely a chance, we had a chance to make the Final Four. He just leaves in the middle of the freaking run, and he's just like, all right, I'm an LSU guy now. Man, screw that guy. Screw Brian Kelly, man. We had a real shot, and I feel like he broke up with me. Like we were.
Yeah, okay, like tell me the story of why you're a Notre Dame fan, because I know you're from California.
I like the helmets mostly. My dad liked the helmets, so they're like, all right, let's be a Notre Dame fan. You know, Joe Montana went to Notre Dame. You know, Ken Stabler went to Notre Dame, I think. Wait, no, did he? No,
the greatest Niner and Raider quarterback.
Ken Stabler went to Notre Dame. Tim Brown went to Notre Dame. There's a lot of good players I like went to Notre Dame. So I just was like, I really like their helmets. But yeah, Brian Kelly, man. That guy's just such a weasel. To go play for LSU, I mean, that's just ridiculous.
You got any thoughts on his Southern accent?
That was the stupidest. That was even worse than like him leaving. Just like him on the press conference going like, he sounded like you, Ultra. He's trying to.
The difference is I live in the South.
Really good here for an hour. We're gonna have a really good team. I'm gonna show you the success I've had in the past. I'm gonna translate
family.
You. No, man, that just done with that guy. He's done. I'm done with him.
So you're. So here's the thing, because I kind of feel like it was a good hire by LSU though, because I think he's a good coach.
No, okay, from LSU's perspective, home run. I think it's a home run for them. Like just to have to replace the guy they had and just get. Yeah, I mean, legendary coach. To replace him with a really good coach, I think that's a home run.
He wasn't exactly a legendary head coach. He had a lot
of. Awesome. I liked him.
He had a great personality.
I liked the dude. But yeah.
But yeah. So the thing with Brian Kelly, I've always felt he's a good coach.
He's kind of conservative.
I just kind of like 2012, Notre Dame and Alabama played in the national championship game. I know this is giving you pain. Alabama won 42-14.
Yeah.
And Brian Kelly went out at halftime in the tunnel. He looked across the field, and he saw in his mind like, if I had those players, we'd be winning. And I feel like there is a thing like because in LSU and it's Louisiana. Yeah, it's not like Florida where you're competing for players. And in Louisiana, it's LSU and it's the Saints. That's what it is. And so he wanted to go up against Alabama and Georgia, and he wanted to have even playing fields. He wanted to have that. And I know you love Notre Dame.
Been mad if he just left after the season.
I agree with that. No, he probably should have waited until the. Here's the problem.
Just left. They offered him a contract. He's I'm done with this place.
You can't wait until the end of the season. Like you can't wait for bowl games and all of that.
I guess
it's that's weeks after the season, and they may have already found their guy by that point.
It just annoys me as a fan, I guess. You know,
but
no loyalty. You know what I mean?
Where's the last straw? That is gonna wrap up our first episode of the Lay Down podcast. Lenny, got any final thoughts?
I think it was a pretty good first episode. I think we had some pretty good topics to talk about. I think we kind of hit out the ballpark. I think we're going to be better than Joe Rogan in the depth chart here. Or we're going to get a Spotify contract.
Yeah. Number one on Spotify by 3 months' time.
Yep. Just wait, you know. Big. Also, the reason I've been wearing this the whole time is because my state championship gear. My team won state champion or in California, so you know, just want to
All
say
right.
that.
So make sure to go and subscribe to Lenny's channel, Lenny B. I'll be linking it in the description. Make sure to follow his social medias as well. Also be linked in the description. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and follow my social medias. All that good stuff. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. And peace. All right, Lenny, that's it.
It says live still right there.